everyone. Happy World Food Day 2024. And also welcome to the People's Food Summit, the fourth one since 2021. This is the African segment, and I am your host. We are this year bringing you stories of hope, resilience, practice, and the movement of Africa in general. I'm going to have and host voices from across the continent who have been influencing and really changing the narrative of the regenerative and agroecological movement on the African landscape. We have amongst our speakers those that are going to stand in for the youth. We are engaging so much the youth in the movement. We also have practice of agroecology, seed and food systems transformation, as well as landscape level management through the tools of holistic plant grazing. We're also going to dive in through our speakers on engaging and talking about agroecological markets, how the movement is really going towards having farmers have an end line in the marketplace where they can make and improve their livelihoods while healing their ecosystems. We also have those that are helping us understand how the communication of agroecology and regenerative agriculture has been making progress and inroads and even influencing policy in the policy spaces. We also have a sharing on how we are tackling the greenwashing by the Green Revolution and what is the stand of communal smallholder farmers in resisting the Green Revolution and greenwashing while bringing the solutions to the table for a sustainable and resilient and much healthier future. I am Precious Piri, and I hope that you enjoy today as well as our culture, a little bit of it, as I'm sure you're going to have an experience. I thank you and enjoy the session. I'm here with Dr. Belay, who's a brother, friend, colleague, but also a very big thought leader on the African continent because he leads one of the biggest, actually the biggest network of networks that works with small family farmers and farmer groups on the African continent, the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. He is the coordinator, and he also started Melka, an organization that is in Ethiopia. So at this point, I guess it doesn't really matter where he comes from because he represents all of us on the continent. But he was originally born and he's from Ethiopia, but he's all over Africa. And we're so grateful to have you, Dr. Million, on the platform today. We really look forward to just harvesting and gleaning from your wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Precious. And I do also admire the work that you do and the leadership that you are showing. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Dr. Million, I know you're very busy and packed up with activities. So thanks for the opportunity to just come and meet the world through this Zoom platform. I would like to just invite you to give us a bit of the work that you have been doing with AFSA. I know it's quite broad, but just a broad leaf of who AFSA is and what they do. By the way, AFSA is short for Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, and they are also friends of Regeneration International, and we've made lots of good friends and connections and collaboratives through the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food Initiative and the Climate Change Initiative. So I'm just inviting you to just share who AFSA is, and then we will dive into other movement issues as we progress.
Yeah. Well, as you described AFSA when you started, Precious, AFSA is a network of networks. We have networks of farmers, fisher folks, pastoralists, indigenous peoples, women networks, youth networks, faith-based institutions, consumer networks, and the bigger civil society as a members of AFSA. We are the largest network in Africa. The reason that we started AFSA, we conceived AFSA in 2008, is, Precious goes to one international meeting representing one institution. I go somewhere to represent one, and my friends, my colleagues will go somewhere. So We are all representing, yes, some parts of our institutional vision, but not a collected or a collective one created in after a lot of dialogues, but one in loud voice as Africa. So we just decided to do our own research, our own analysis. We want to make our own connection, and we want to bring the voice of everyone in AFSA and have one clear and loud voice. That's why we started AFSA. And hopefully, from the statements that we produce and the work that we do, we are reaching there. It has a very thin secretariat for the single purpose of participating the members as much as possible. Our central work is to contribute to the transition or the transformation of African agriculture from where it is now to agroecology or to a healthy and sustainable food system. We do that through doing our own research or knowledge mobilization based on the research that we do and also the research that others do all over the world. We do advocacy. We also work to mobilize communities, all over Africa. We try to change the narratives through communication. I'm sure you get our communications, and we also try to scale up as much as possible the great work that is being done. You've mentioned the Healthy Soil and Healthy Food Initiative. I think there are a lot of actors doing so many great things. So our purpose is to connect all these actors and create an overarching narrative on agroecology and scale that up. So scaling up would be also one of the things. And also we are trying to mobilize financing for agroecology as much as possible. So we are separated into 4 working groups. There are groups working on land and agroecology issues, including the healthy and healthy food and land rights for women. And there are groups who are working on seed issues and farmers management system and fighting with the appropriation of our seeds through mechanisms like genetically modified organisms and gene-edited crops and all that. And there are groups who are working on integrating agroecology into climate policy spaces. And there are groups who are working on citizens, agroecological entrepreneurship, territorial markets. My Food is African campaign, as you all know. And quite recently, we have started to work also in Congo Basin, in the 6 countries in the Congo Basin. That's a very, very critical part of the country, but the civil societies are not included. Farmers are not included, indigenous people are not included in the decision of that part of the world. And people are focusing mainly on the conservation side of it, on the climate change. So in short, this is what we are doing. On one hand, we fight. On the other hand, we propose solutions, more and more. So that's what AFSA is doing.
That's so cool. At Regeneration International once had a hashtag resist and regenerate to say even farmers can be part of advocacy by resisting industrious or green revolution solutions, but also still implement agroecology, permaculture, holistic management, all those things that regenerate life back to the land. So yeah, that's really nice. Thank you for that history and a bit of the backdrop. So I know that there's lots of movement towards influencing the policy spaces. How are you finding the progress going? It's probably a long shot, but I don't know, how do you feel? And we've been reading quite very good articles of yours, and I think we'll make it aim to share as much as we can of what you write, because it's also enriching to the movement.
Yeah. This continent, maybe the whole world, I don't know, but we feel it in this continent. We live in 2 competing paradigms.
Yeah.
Competing world views of what the food system in Africa should be. It seems on the surface that we are all heading to one direction, a healthy, resilient, sustainable food systems for Africa, based on the wisdom of the people. Now, I'm adding that, that's our view, based on the cultural and the long-term wisdom of our people. That's what we want. But at least what they are saying is, they want a sustainable, resilient Africa. So probably there might be an agreement there. But how we go there is a battlefront, They are saying that, the major purpose of African agriculture should be increasing productivity. So for you to do that, they say in a sustainable way. How that comes, only God knows. So they say that Africans as a country have to open its door to business. So the recent direction of the bigger policy for Africa, which commonly called the Malabo Agenda, now it's going to be a Kampala Declaration, whatever, which represents, the direction of some of our actors, maybe the governments in few months' time, for African food system or for African agriculture. And that's a collective, their collective wisdom is that document. So that document, the idea that's guiding that document, the thinking that is guiding that document or policy is Africa should open its door to business. Africans cannot produce without agrochemicals. Africans cannot produce enough food with the seeds that they have. So we need to bring in, GMOs, genetic crops, and hybrid seeds. The knowledge of Africans is, not scientific backward. I mean, there might be some ideas, but that can be integrated into science, and also the whole thing should be market led. So if you have money in your pocket, you can buy any kind of food. So we need to focus on few crops, value crops. And these crops should be produced in abundance. And you can convert these crops into so many things that you want. So value addition. Then Africa will be happy and sustainable and whatever. That is the view, the world view. What we are saying that is, no. Already we are in a crisis. We are in a hunger crisis. We are in a cultural crisis because the culture, there is a lot of cultural erosion. There is a lot of seed erosion. In a health crisis, the non-communicable diseases, including diabetes and heart disease, is rising in Africa. It is skyrocketing. So we are in a problem. And our environment is a problem. We have a global environment crisis of climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, pollution crisis, land degradation crisis, human rights crisis, the right to food, it's a crisis. So our response, whatever strategies that we have should respond to this crisis. And for us, a food system based on agroecology and food sovereignty ticks so many of the boxes. It increases productivity, responds to nutrition and health crisis. It's good for our biosphere, culturally appropriate food is very, very critical. In Africa, we produce, an array of food, based on the wisdom of our people. Keeping that is very, very much important. Yes, market is important, but the agroecological markets, healthy food produced, and we can add value on this healthy food produced, and thousands of examples all over Africa. We had an agroecological entrepreneurship meeting, like a summit in Zimbabwe, in Harare, quite recently. And there was a Zimbabwe seed festival, a Zimbabwe food festival. All that is demonstrating is we have a solution here. cultural appropriate food. So this is our vision. But quite recently, we took this vision, this dream of Africa into bigger policy space, the post-Malabo process. We were ignored. We have the document now, it's just ignored us. So in terms of analysis of the current system, what is exciting me now is a number of civil society groups, number of governments actually, international research institutes, international actors, number of funding organizations, UN bodies, all are saying that now agroecology is a way. All, increasingly, in regeneration, everybody's talking about regenerative, you know. So, but a group of actors, very powerful in terms of, you know, they reach to our policymakers. Powerful because they have a lots of resources. You know what the sad fact of that, Precious, is that our governments are strapped through debt, you know.
Yeah.
They're hand tied through debt, you know.
Yeah.
So when you don't have money, anybody who is coming with a lot of money is your friend. So Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a number of other governments are coming with a lot of money to cash strapped, to, you know, resource poor countries, and they are saying that we have all this money and this is the direction that you should go, and they say yeah, even though a number of their experts say that no, we have to follow agroecology. So that's where we are, Precious. Sorry for my long-winded explanation.
No, beautiful explanation, to be fair. And as you were talking, there's a word that you said that we're already in a mess. Earlier this week, I had a chat with a man named Dr. Daniel Christian Val. He's into regenerative thinking and these thinking processes. He says, you know, we should stop acting like we are going towards trouble. We are literally in a Titanic that has hit the iceberg.
Exactly.
Our thinking process is that the one that you've just said, that we are already in deep ends with the crisis. And it does feel like as soon as money comes, because I believe even in governments, Million, there are people who are aware of how important this agroecology is. But as soon as money walks through the door, everyone sticks their heads in the sand, which is the importance of now movement building, because it's practice, science, information, activation, and now even getting in funders on board. I feel like as much as we can, and as much as you guys are doing, which is quite powerful to have all the grassroots, I think eventually the voices of the people will shift the direction of the policy spaces. And you and AFSA and everybody, we are all trying to take these voices in, but now we're doing big bites because it's bigger people and bigger voices. So is it right for me to say, I think we are even saying we need to change the trajectory of thinking about business?
That's why we have started in AFSA.
Yeah.
Focusing on agroecological entrepreneurship also. So when we talked about business in our members, we said, what are you talking about? You know, we're fighting, you know, these big business conglomerates, but now you are talking about business. No. What we are saying is we have to ask the big question: how can we use the forces of the market to transition to agroecology? It's a very, very powerful force. And our people were trading for thousands of years in agroecological products. And how can we produce agroecologically? You know, the real focus now is on production, but there is consumption. You know, so what I'm saying is that Afsa has asked a question, how can we use the forces of the market to help us transition to agroecology? So the focus was mainly on production only, agroecological production. But now we have to think of the consumers. And in between them is a process, between them, it is a lot of things that are happening in the harvesting, in the processing, in the packaging, in the marketing, and also in the context of Africa, there are a lot of youth who have no jobs now, but there is plenty of job in production and consumption. So how can we support this job creation? And also the eating of healthy, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food, which is produced without impacting the environment. So how do we do that? So we started this project, and we did some research. Is there any agroecological entrepreneurship in Africa? So we found out that there is quite a lot. The research was done in 27 African countries. So we brought them in 2022, all these entrepreneurs, and again now in 2024 in Harare, in your country. So the learning from that is there are plenty of them out there. And there is a huge opportunity out there for agroecological producers to be actually incentivized to produce agroecologically, because there are more and more consumers who want agroecological products. And in between them, there can be a lot of value addition by thousands of youth, so we can create job for the youth. So this is a new and interesting field. And in relation to that is also there are these markets, which we call territorial markets, all over Africa, which are closer to people. And territorial markets in the idea of food sovereignty are very much in tandem, because they are closer to people, there are cultural places, social places, and environmental places. And the IPS Food has did this study and used the study of Hafsa. And now the territorial markets are considered as one of the spaces where people, can be in control of the economy, their own economy, where we can go also contribute to the discussion and around how we can actually be out of this industrial food system, industrial control of the food system in general. So this is a new field. This is a growing field, and we are trying to support as many entrepreneurs as possible, so that we create jobs, and then we improve environment, and we make sure that our consumers eat healthy and culturally appropriate food produced without impacting the environment.
That's quite incredible. And honestly, bringing the economic piece is fulfilling all the fundamental pieces, right? It's culturally appropriate, improves livelihoods, and the ecology is left at a much better place. And that's probably one of the biggest threats to the fake promises of the industrial agriculture, because once we embrace that, even cash crops, they'll be different in each region. This thing of trying to put one cash crop across the diverse landscapes, it has really left most of our communities even more impoverished than we needed to be. So that's quite eye-opening. And I am sure that you are also advocating for farmer-based research, because I feel like farmers are the same scientists again. Once they have all this proof, one day someone will buy the story very full from a researcher who is also a farmer, showing how much soil has improved on their landscape, going out to the consumers. We sell to consumers not only the food, but the value that it also brings to community and the civilizations and the future of human beings. So,
I mean, I'm sure you have gone to the Seed and Food Festival in Harare.
Lots of times, and every year we take farmers, and this year we even added youths. So for every 5 elderly farmers, there's 5 youths as well. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent work. And you have seen the diversity in seed, the diversity. And now, as we speak in Tanzania, there is a big farmer seed fair. And in Ethiopia, I organized a number of seed fairs. And all over Africa, this is happening. Where did all these seeds come from? It's not from research centers.
No.
It's from the farmers.
From the people.
It's from the farmers. Yeah. What are we talking about when you talk about research?
Yeah.
Or farmers doing research and whatever? Who has brought all those seeds? Who has brought all the diversity of foods? It's years of experiment, years of sharing,
Yes.
years of co-learning. You see? That's what our farmers did. But we are not rejecting science. We're not rejecting science. So the conventional breeders, what they do is also important.
Yes.
But what we are saying is these two knowledge systems have to converse. They have to talk. It's not integrating farmers' knowledge into the system. That's not the talk should be. It's both of them coming through participatory breeding, participatory research.
There's no one swallowing anyone.
Yeah. No epistemology, no knowledge system being superior than the others, So they should come respectfully and they should converse and we should move forward. That's why we say that agroecology is science, practice, and social movement. That's why science, a number of social and environmental and breeding sciences coming together. That's what the beauty of agroecology is. We're not rejecting science. We're not rejecting technology, But what kind of technology, in whose control, and to what purpose? I think that the decolonization, that the idea of colonization should come in here also. Some people say that, colonialism, the colonialists are gone. And for, the 60s already, 60, 70 years based on the country. But no, it's here.
The traces remain.
It's not even the traces, In a big way, it is
the
here.
whole thing is still here because
recognize it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you always say this notion that the African way of producing food will leave Africa more impoverished. Like there's a lesser eye of view to the way that we do our things, we grow our food. So that's still very colonialistic. And lots of importance of solutions that will not even.
Yes. Exactly. I think most of our life is still controlled by colonialists. Even our relationship with our NGO actors, with our civil society from out of the continent. That's a colonial thing indeed also. We have to decolonize that relationship also somehow. That's very much important.
It's one sore area in the continent. I think the more you work with a small grassroots organization, I'll speak from even a personal standpoint, there's a big problem in there. So I think it's one of the very big.
No.
Yeah. And some solutions.
Even the science
even some foods that are brought to communities. Shocking. For food security.
So there are so many things to decolonize. The good thing is that I'm interacting with a number of European civil society and NGOs, and they are thinking about this decolonizing thing, decolonizing our relationship. And we need to assist that decolonization process. We have to be open. There is a kind of fear among African civil society that if we speak up, then we can disappoint them and whatever, what about all the resources that are coming, but we need to be open about that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for this fireful dialogue. And I feel like we really did cut across the whole spectrum. Do you have any special message? Because this is a World Food Day undertaking. What's a special message to the comrades on the ground in Africa and the comrades outside Africa? How can we all work together?
Yeah, I think we are in the same boat in so many ways. And the wisdom of our farmers, the wisdom of the fisher folks and the pastoralists, the indigenous peoples, even the faith-based research is very, very much important. We have to open our heart, what we think in our mind is not enough. Our spirituality, African spirituality, should also guide us as much as possible. So I'm very, very happy as I speak that we have the solution. There are so many solutions. And we can explore more solutions, you see? So we don't need outside actors to come and tell us how we can lead our life, how we can lead our agriculture, anything. We have the solutions. So let's work together. Let's work together. That's my solution. Or my mistake, sorry.
Thank you so much, Million. This was so amazing. Look forward to airing it out, and thank you for making time. I know how much it cost you to sit for these few minutes, and all the best for all your meetings as well. Yeah, no, thank you. I truly appreciate.
I'm Esther Lupafya, the Executive Director for Soilos Food and Healthy Communities Organization, in short, SFHC. SFHC started in 2000, and we are currently working with over 15,000 farmers. Farmers use agroecological practices, and SFHC promote indigenous, local, and open variety seeds. They work with food insecure households, and we use participatory approaches. SFHC is a participatory farmer-led non-profit organization. Conduct community-based training on agroecology, nutrition, and climate change. It does interdisciplinary and participatory research, collaborate with social and natural sciences, supports landscape restoration through tree planting and forest regeneration, and also promotes gender inequality through gender transformative approaches. Main objectives for SFHC are to improve soil fertility, food security, and nutrition for smallholder farmers or vulnerable households in northern Malawi. Also, to promote gender inequality through gender transformative approaches. Also, to promote ecological farming and natural resources management. We also improve seed accessibility and availability, and also to restore the lost indigenous crops, building in local knowledge. Our approaches for SFHC: holistic agroecological approaches addressing food insecurity, nutrition, and livelihood and health. Explicit attention to inequalities at multiple scale, and also participatory methods and dialogue approach that respects local knowledge and culture, addresses big issues that shape women's choices, not just community level. SFHC, like I have said, uses participatory farmer-to-farmer mode of teaching, which can be at village level, national level, and district level. farmer research team. These are FRT members. Are the main training facility for AE approaches, who are selected by their own fellow farmers in every area, 2 per village, and they are the first people to be trained so that they train their fellow farmers. And then FRTs are an important component of our monitoring and evaluation strategy and critical to long-term sustainability of AE practices. This is because they get information from all the villages. After that, they have meetings on every 26th day of every month, unless if it is on a Sunday, it's when they are not going to do it. In that meeting, they address their challenges and successes. And also, if they need more help, they will come and share with us. And SFHC uses farmer promoters who are hand-on with the FRTs. The farmer promoters are upgraded farmers. They are salaried, but they were the first farmers to be trained in agroecological practices. The last point on approaches is SFHC uses gender transformative approaches in addressing gender inequalities. So the approaches for SFHC emphasis on farmer to farmer. So what do they do? Builds on indigenous knowledge, facilitating knowledge exchange, and encouraging experimentation and innovation. One of the most important activities is exchange visits. These exchange visits are done in all the areas, village to village, district to district, family to family, household to household. And also we have seed and food fairs. The seed and food fairs are very, very important because that's where people showcase what type of seeds they grow. There's a lot of seed sharing. Some people also buy seeds from seed and food fairs, and also that's where people see a lot of lost seeds and they benefit quite a lot from there. And there's also natural control of disease, insects, weeds, and minimize toxic and non-renewable inputs. That's botanic pest management. SFHC use a lot of botanics to treat different pests and also used for after harvesting the crops. Also seed multiplication training, which was really first initiated by a different organization, which is called Grassroots, gave us a very good knowledge. And then field days. Field days are very important. We start field days from the time we are preparing our gardens so that people can see how people prepare their gardens and where the maize is planted, germinated, and even when the crop is ready, and even after harvest, we still do field days. And then we also have farmer training in different AE practices. Nutrition training, when we are doing nutrition training, we do recipe demonstrations. These recipe demonstrations are done in every village, and not once or twice. They are done at the resource center, at the research training center. But we really prefer in the villages because both men, women, children, boys, girls participate and they all taste the food. Each crop which is planted in Malawi or by SFHC, every farmer can make different things from those crops. I can say one example. Soya beans, you can make soya meat, you can make soya milk, you can make soya coffee, soya powder, and make different chikonda moyo and so many other things. And also we do tree planting and regeneration, and then we do gender training. When we are doing gender training, because this part was not easy for people to take it, but they did very well because we started with gender campaign. By gender campaign, we're using whistle stopping, using PS system, whereby we're stopping every place where you stop, every village, then you do dramas, songs, poems, using songs which were composed by the youth and dancing quite a lot. And those songs were talking about gender inequalities and all those addressing that, which has really helped to improve SFHC. And then we also have some farmer-to-farmer approaches, like we do intercropping. For example, when we are doing intercropping, that's one way of improving the soil and also food security and also nutrition. Why is that? These days there's climate change. And with climate change, if you plant one crop, if that crop doesn't mature early, you get nothing. But if you intercrop early maturing crops like maize, and then you intercrop with beans or soya beans or groundnuts, one of those is going to help quite a lot. At the same time, the legumes fix nitrogen in the soil, which helps the harvest of the cereals to be much better. And then you have food security. At the same time, some of these crops, you can sell them if you have supplies, and some of them you may eat. That is still very important. Also, for SFHC, we have learned this, we make compost to improve the soil. And then one of the most important type of manure that we're using bokashi manure. Bokashi manure were first trained by Sky. After they trained us, it has spread all over because of SFHC. And everyone in the country is using, in our catchment area, is using bokashi manure. Farm inputs are very expensive in Malawi. At the same time, with climate change, the use of chemical fertilizers, they are not good when there is dry spell. But if you intercrop, you use compost, or you use any type of manure, you are better off because the soil will remain moist and your maize or other crops will continue growing. And then one of the other crops that we also have, which is we call lost seed, is the sorghum. Sorghum is one of the crops which is drought resistant, and it is very good for making porridge, making our main simmer food, and also improving the soil too. Then we also have so many ways of making compost. Like I've said, you can make compost using bokashi, but you can also make compost by digging a hole and putting some greens, putting some manure, some leftovers from different things, and then you make that as manure. Also, we have, I have already explained to say, I have some photos which are going to show how farmers teach each other or showcase nutrition discussion groups, that people in the villages sit down and discuss issues about their socio-economic status, and also discuss about how they can be selling their commodities, agroecological commodities in the markets, and how they can be sharing such type of seeds which they are not there. And then, like I've said, at first, women were not taking part in leadership roles. But these days, women are at the forefront addressing issues with the communities. So the lady could be a chairperson. A man can be a vice, secretary could be a lady, or the whole team. Most of them could be women. Some of the examples we have here, SFHC, the executive director is a woman, the deputy director is a man. Like that, we have really tried to do that. Promoters also 50-50. Every department is 50-50. So, but we have some challenges. The challenges that we have are external forces, like an unpredictable rainfall pattern and also pest infestation. These come because of climate change. And sometimes we also have these drought or floods, which at the end of the day spoil our crops. And then some of the results that we have are results like this. We have observed an increase in number of farmers adopting to AE practices. We can say you can go in a village, maybe 1 in 4, only 1 or none is not participating, but 4 or 3 are participating in AE practices. More number of farmers adopting AE practices such that intercropping, compost manure application, agroforestry, mulching, peat planting is working very well, and also making of bokash manure. And there is increased in number for farmer producing indigenous seeds such as finger millets, bambara nuts, cowpea, pigeon pea, all those seeds which were lost. And we are even using the orange indigenous maize, which is very nutritious. It was not there, but when we were doing mapping exercise, one of the grandmothers brought that seed, and many other seeds were brought by the very old grandmothers. And we planted a bit. Now we have multiplied. We have a lot of seeds, a lot of indigenous seeds. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the PFS People's Food Summit 2024, the African segment. I'm here with Sibonokuhle Moyo, Sibonokuhle, who is also a Zimbabwean like me, a colleague. We actually work together, and it'll be awesome to probably spend a bit of some minutes of her time for her to share her own wisdom with us. Sibo is actually a programs manager at Ecological Trust, where I also work here on the ground in Zimbabwe, a partner also of Regeneration International. She has over 6 years of marketing knowledge. Probably you'll say, okay, what is she marketing? Marketing regenerative courses, where she used to work at the Africa Center for Holistic Management, which is the Savory Hub here in Zimbabwe. Sibo has a vast experience of international programs, exchanges, where she's took part at IDEX, which is an Indian-based global fellowship. But she also has huge experiences of M&E, or monitoring and evaluation of programs, regenerative programs, both from the Savory Center and Ecological Trust, where she currently works as the programs manager, but also overseeing monitoring and evaluation. Sibo, you are welcome. It's a pleasure to introduce you. A bit weird because you're a colleague, a friend, and we've known each other for a long time. But yeah. Hi.
Hi, Precious. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Well,
Sibo,
I'm hoping this awkwardness of us knowing each other in different platforms will just be like, it won't affect us, like, as we are conversing. Because I know
think
it
it will
gets
work
weird,
well
to be
for us,
honest.
to be honest. I think it will work well. So, Sibo, I know you are
Yeah.
in Big Falls this week, but you are
Yes.
also joining Good Africans in Harare at the Seed and
Mhm.
Seed and Food Festival. Can you please talk to that a little bit? Probably introduce yourself and then talk to what you guys are up to there in Harare.
Okay, thank you, Precious. Once again, like she has introduced me, but let me say it in my own words. My name is Sibonokuhle Moyo, the programs manager for Ecological Trust. This time around, which is the annual National Seed and Food Festival that we usually hold in Harare, we managed to come with our community members, the farmers that are doing amazing work on the ground. However, because of the El Nino effects, we couldn't harvest much to have like seed banks or to restock our seeds, just like we do usually every year. So what happened is we had to come the site in Harare where we met with different farmers from different regions across Africa as well, where we wanted to network just to understand how are they doing the seed and food systems in their areas, and also to restock our seeds because we are nearly getting to the rain season. So very soon we might be receiving rains. And according to like the data that we're getting from Agritech's office, we're likely to get early rain. So we want to prepare sooner than regretting that we could have, if only. So yeah, basically those are the two reasons that brought us to Harare. And it was such a great opportunity, to be honest, it was, because we learned a lot. And it was also inspirational because there are some areas that are like our area that were able at least to harvest something. So those were great lessons for us as well as farmers that we work with. Thank you, Precious.
Thanks, Sibo, and so beautiful. I know you've met lots of partners as well, so it's quite awesome. So I know you're very keen to share with us the community work that you guys are doing with Ecological Trust. You know, this is airing, or this is a recording for World Food Day, but you know, World Food Day is not substantive without every other pillar that makes agriculture hold together, especially regenerative agriculture. So we're very keen for you to share with the world your story and how you fit into the whole picture with the communities that you work with. Please take the stage, whether you have images or PowerPoint, feel free to share. And then I think in the process, we'll also be free to just explore and chit chat as you are sharing your photos. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Precious, for the platform. Well, as I'll be sharing with you our work, let me say that this is quite an exciting opportunity to be talking on such a platform, which is globally. Honestly, we are so excited to be sharing our story with you. So today I'm going to talk about regenerative action practices, which is so far for us is like a journey of endless opportunities for agro-pastoralists. The reason being that when you look at regenerative agriculture, it's not like a prescribed process whereby if you do A, you get B, but it is like a journey where anything can happen anytime and anyhow. All you have to be certain of is what is your goal at the end of the day and how you can maneuver the journey of achieving what you have planned for. So basically, that is our story. It's not like a prescribed story where I can tell you that if you do A, you get the B results that we have done. But these approaches, you have to contextualize them for them to be successful. So right, I'm going to talk a bit about who we are as an organization. So Ecological Trust was established in 2017 and it was registered in that same year. And Ecological Trust was registered and established in Zimbabwe. So we are locally registered, we are locally established. And also this slide which you are seeing there, it also shows our journey in brief on how we moved from registration and establishment to the implementation level. So that was in 2017 when we did all the processes of establishment and registering. And then in 2020, we started mobilizing communities so that we can start at least implementation. However, you can see there is a gap of almost a year when we started mobilizing, and then there is implementation in 2021. So what happened is we had a challenge of the COVID-19, which affected globally everyone. So we had to pause a bit on our work. And then in 2021, we started now our implementation. So basically, our main focus is to build resilience and foster regenerative norms. And below our main focus, you can see a map, and where there's that red color and just a little bit a dot there, that is our operational area. So we operate in Kachechete Ward 3, and that is under Wange district. So the communities that we work with, we have got 5 villages that we work with, and they form what we call Ndlovu cluster communities. So that cluster is what I'm going to be talking more than the 5 villages separately, because we've done our work together as a cluster more than individually as villages. So now what you have to understand with the work that we do, it is divided into pillars, because we cannot approach nature-based programs in terms of like just taking them as a one-size-fits-all programs. No, we wanted to tackle them in terms of pillar to pillar, because there are synergies in the work that we do. So we have 4 pillars that we deal with in the program. And those 4 pillars are the landscape regeneration, the ecological crop farming, we've got the seed and food systems, and then we've got the social strengthening pillar. So basically, I'm going to start off with the landscape regeneration pillar. So what we have noticed in our landscape regeneration pillar is that our main focus is we want to regenerate the landscape that we work, like that our communities are located in. So maybe before I get deeper on what we do in landscape regeneration, let me just give you a snapshot of the characteristic of the areas that we work with or that we work in. So the Ndlovu community cluster is located in a seasonal rainfall area. And then the annual rainfall that our communities usually receive, they are on a range of 450 millimeters to 650 millimeters annually. So basically you can picture how much rainfall that we receive. And then the seasons where we receive the rainfall, they are not that much, because they range from, sometimes it's from November to April. But because of these erratic rainfalls, there are times when the last rains that we received were around March. And then the earliest rainfalls that we can say these are good rains for cropping, they start around mid-December to end of December. So what we can say is that our rainfall season has been shortened, and then our dry seasons have been lengthened. So basically that is the snapshot. And also the other characteristic of the areas that we work with, they are located adjacent to national park. So where there is a national park, you know, we've got wildlife. And the challenges that the communities we work with face are human-wildlife conflicts, where there is predation of their livestock, where there is crop raiding. So in general, that is the kind of communities that we work with, the challenges that they are facing. And those are the very same things that drive us to work with these communities, because we want to work together, at least to manage these challenges in their communities. So now I'm going to move on to talk about landscape regeneration, getting deeper into it and how we do it. So landscape regeneration focuses mainly on the grazing areas and also on livestock health management. So what we have seen is, in most cases, people blame the cow to be the cause of desertification, to be the cause of background. But what we have realized through the use of holistic management, which is a decision-making framework as well as a planning process, is that it's not about the cow, and it's not, but it's more about the how. The how being, what decisions have you made with regards to your land? So that is supposed to be your guiding a plan to say, how do I manage? So now, in our landscape regeneration, we have holistic plant grazing as one of the key components that we use to manage, that we use to prop ourselves to say, what can we do to make our land better? what can we do to make our grazing areas productive? So basically, that's what we do. So what happens is farmers, they are trained on how to do their grazing planning. That is, they do the grazing planning twice in a year because of our seasonal rainfalls that we get and also the dry months that we go through. So basically, our year is divided into 2 seasons. And then during those trainings, community members are equipped with mapping skills. They are equipped with low stress animal handling skills. They are also equipped with skills to read the land. Because once there is a decision that is made, especially on the land, you are supposed to be able to read the land, as in to track what changes are happening due to this practice that I am implementing on the land. So we believe that those are the most key skills that farmers need, at least to have close by in their fingertips as they implement this project. And then moving on to the livestock health management component, which we believe is very critical because our tool to regenerate land is livestock. Hence, at the same time, we have to ensure that our tool is healthy, that our tool is at least free of diseases, that our tool is able to be productive as in reproduce, because you cannot have a herd of livestock that is not reproducing. Eventually, you end up losing everything because as they grow older, they will die, or we have to kill them or sell them. So the livestock health management component of the program ensures that our livestock are vaccinated against the diseases that are rampant in the area that we work in. For example, the lambskin, for example, the hard water. Those are some of the diseases that affect them. And also they go through deworming process. And also we do the dosing where we boost their immune system, especially this year. That boost was very critical because our rangelands didn't produce the same way we expected, like in the previous years. So basically, that's what we do under landscape regeneration. And then to add more to that is that in our landscape regeneration, we work with both livestock owners as well as non-livestock owners. So basically, the design of our program is that it doesn't segregate anybody, despite the fact that you own livestock or you don't own livestock. The reason being that everyone benefits, whether you're a livestock owner or non-livestock owner. I'm not so sure whether I've got a question there or any need for clarity before I move on to our next pillar.
No, I'm totally thrilled because of the connection that you are showing, building the fact that it's hard to have copy and paste processes, that one thing doesn't work for every community. So it's so nice to totally hear you express that you are really maximizing and using tools that are relevant to the communities that you're obviously serving. So it's very nice. So I just wanted to comment.
So maybe just before I move on to the next slide, the next pillar. So when you're looking at the pictures that we have there on the slide, they are showing different management techniques. Like if you manage your land properly, following the right principles, you can grow the forage that is going to be enough for your livestock. However, if you miss it on how to manage your land will end up degrading and becoming bare, just like in the first picture. So basically for us to run away from having deserts, to run away from having balance, to run away from having gullies forming, we are using livestock. Now, livestock as a tool, we harness the hoof action, one, and also they graze on our forage so that it opens up for regrowth, and then it also tramples whatsoever that it has not eaten. So our land is covered in preparation for the rainy season, because if land is bare, we've got high chances of it being eroded either through water, either through wind. So now if we start losing our topsoil, we end up not having fertile soils. So that's why I want to safeguard as much as we can they graze, they trample, and also they cover our soil. So now I'm going to move on to the next pillar, which is the ecological crop farming pillar. So the ecological crop farming pillar, I can sum it as healthy livestock lead to healthy soil, which lead to healthy plants and a healthy lifestyle for people. So in the picture there, you can
like
see
I
like
really
three.
like this. I wanted
Sorry.
to just say, I really like
Okay.
the connection to say you don't just
Okay.
wake up and obtain a bumper harvest. There are a lot of things that
No,
you
no, no.
need to build at the base, which really
Yeah.
speaks to why agriculture then went down south, because everybody
Yes.
wanted to have a bumper harvest at whatever cost.
Mhm.
We focus on,
True.
I want to harvest enough for my family, but instead of asking ourselves, what do I need and what do I have
Yes.
on this landscape that will help me
Yeah.
get a healthy harvest? Because whatever you're doing to the soil, you want to be also
Mhm.
aware of what other living organisms am I affecting and how. So I just wanted
Yes.
to really
Yes.
acknowledge the connections here that you've built, that they're quite wise and good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Precious, for that. So as I was saying, that my slide is showing like 3 photos. So we are still using our livestock. So our livestock are very key in this program, both in the landscape regeneration as well as in our ecological crop farming. So now that which we have fed our livestock with to give us the fertilizer that we need is that which is going to be deposited in the crop fields, so the plots where they grow their crops. So basically what happens now in the crop fields is that we crawl our livestock in movable enclosures. And based on the soil type, you can find that those crows can be there for at least 7 days minimum to 10 or 14 days. So that also is determined by the soil type of the area. Moreover, the size of the crow is very critical in terms of the concentration of the manure that you get, which we can say is the organic fertilizer that you get, which you are going to use to grow the crops. So that also, because it's very critical to understand how to get a good concentration of the manure, just like in the photo there, the aerial photo where people are standing, that is one profit plot that was impacted by livestock. So you have to ensure that you calculate the size of the crop based on the number of livestock that you have. Because if you do it so little and if you do a small crow and you've got more livestock in it, they are highly to trample each other. And also at the same time, if you do a bigger crow with little or few livestock, you are likely to get very little impact on the plot that you have chosen. So basically, you have to balance the size of the crow as well as the number of livestock that you have. So with the farmers that we work with, let me say that we work with 110 farmers, both livestock owners and non-livestock owners. So these farmers have found a way of grouping each other best in terms of the villages that they stay, and also best in the relations that they have with each other. So you find that farmers can group themselves in groups of at least 4 or 10. So from 4 people, they can come together and put their livestock together so that they rotate the mounting as well as having a movable crow in your plot. And also, what you have to understand is that it doesn't have to be like a standard to say how many livestock can you start off with. No, basically you can start with any number of livestock as long as you're going to remember that the size of the crow is determined by the number of livestock that you have. So the maximum number of farmers that we have in a group are 10. So that is the range of number of livestock owners that have formed groups in the area that we work with. So the area of photo that you are seeing there is of one farmer who is also a village head in the area that we work in and is based in BH23. That is one of the villages that form the cluster. So maybe before I get into the how and why and more on that, we are so grateful that we work with these leaders, and they show the passion, and they are also leading even in this program by the example that he was able to have animals in his plot and also to be part of a group that is so interested in improving the soil fertility of their crop fields. It shows us that leaders are very supportive. Our local traditional leaders are very supportive of the program that we do. So now, moving from the aerial photo, you can see on the top right, that is a picture of the crops that have been grown in an animal impacted plot. So in that plot, we have got sorghum and there is maize. And unfortunately, it's not that clear from where you are, but below that we have got a live mulching of pumpkins in that field. And also we are so grateful because we've incorporated intercropping, which makes it easier for us to manage the pests and the diseases of crops. So we were trying as much as possible to go organic, to remove pesticides from the equation. So basically that is our story in the ecological crop farming pillar. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next. So now I'm going to talk about the seed and food systems. Seeds are central to people's food systems and culture. So what we have noticed is seeds are our culture. Seeds are our heritage. And seeds, they define who we are because they define the diet that we consume. So basically, without seed, we cannot talk about culture. Without seed, we cannot talk about the food at the end of the day. So what we have, what you are seeing there on those two pictures, the first one on my left, I hope, I don't know whether it's going to be on your right, but on my left is showing the different varieties of maize and sorghum that are grown at Ndlovu. They are grown locally. They are grown in animal impacted crop fields, and they are grown also in crop fields that have got that are intercropped with other crops. So basically, at the end of the day, should there be a time like where we experience drought, intercropping helps to balance up some losses that can happen in case one crop doesn't perform better. The other one, obviously, it will perform better. So it balances up the harvest that you get. And then on the right side, that picture shows the food that we consume. So if you look closer, there's a pot with some yellow stuff there and some sort of like dotted things. That is our dried maize, which has been boiled. And then we've got, so it's our melon. Let me call it melon in quotes because it falls under the melon family. So that food which you're seeing there, we call it umkanga in our Ndebele dialect. And then the next pot, which is not so clear, or that has been, okay, let me say the next pot, which has got its content served on the plate, is cowpeas that have been boiled. And then the last pot further there, it has got pumpkin. So basically, you can tell the variety of food that we consume, and that keeps us living. So that food and the seeds that we have, they define who we are as a cluster. And also, the other thing that you have to understand is sharing food is one good thing that has brought us together as a cluster. So now I'll be linking this to the next, to the last pillar that we have, which is the social strengthening. The reason being that the same food that we consume is the same food that we share with the visitors that come over for communal tours, the visitors that come to see what we are doing on the ground, and the visitors that are so curious to learn direct from our farmers the journey of our regenerative agriculture that they are going through. So we don't change our menu when you're around in case you visit. What we cook in our homestead is exactly what we're going to serve with you, to serve you with. So yeah, don't expect something different. And this forms like the great part of our diet. And the good thing is to say, all these foods, they can be consumed either fresh or dried, especially looking at the cowpeas and the maize. So you can enjoy your maize fresh, you can enjoy your maize dried and boiled for consumption. You can enjoy your peas, the cowpeas fresh, or you can enjoy them boiled with a little bit of salt in them. So now moving on to the next pillar, which is the social strengthening pillar. Okay, just a minute, yes.
No, I think you
Okay,
can
do you
go.
have something to
No,
say?
it's fine. I was just saying, the beauty of saying, seed and food systems will not work if the broader pillars are not organized, from what I read. But
Yes.
also, because we are from the same tribe and probably same clans,
Yeah.
we do enjoy legume mixtures, the cowpeas. We do enjoy
Mm-hmm.
squashes, and that was pumpkin squash, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one that breaks
Yeah.
everyone's
Yes.
tongue, which is umkanga, it's like a dessert. And it's so beautiful and such
Yes.
joyous food. Thanks, Mabo. You can continue.
Okay. Thank you so much, Precious, for the comment. So now I'm gonna talk about the last pillar, which I've already touched on in the previous pillar on the pillar of the seed and food system. So this last pillar is what strengthens our social fabric, because without it, nowhere could move. We need to be on an understanding platform as communities working together. So basically, our efforts are to build trust amongst each other, and also to cultivate a collaborative mindset. So basically, when you look at development work in generally, somehow there's been a distortion to say organizations that work with community members, they end up working for the community members instead of them working with communities. So that distortion has caused some failures in achieving great results, because one group of people are saying, we are working with communities, but the other group of people is saying they are working for us. So there is no mutual understanding on who is who and how they can move forward. So in the social strengthening pillar, people get to mingle, people get to understand each other outside, if I may say in quotes, outside the implementation of the program. Because in this pillar, we are now meeting in sports fields. In this pillar, we are now meeting when we are hosting our visitors. In this pillar, we are now meeting when we are having communal meetings as we plan our work, as we plan on what we can do better and how best can we host our visitors. So basically, this pillar is, I can say, is the most critical that has led either to the failure or success of development projects generally. Because once we miss identifying what our strengths are and how best can we harness our strengths and skills, because farmers as they are, they've got different skill sets. Some are good with cooking, some are good with storytelling, some are good with hosting. So that's what we do in this pillar. It's quite so diverse. It's not only focusing on the sports tournament, because we've got a seed fairs, we've got a field fairs where we celebrate the efforts of the work that we do, where we celebrate the farmers and the results that they've achieved. One mentor that I have is always saying that we have to celebrate efforts, because failure is not really failure. It's not the end of it, but it is a journey of endless lessons that we get that help us to redesign the work that we have. So it's not like if we fail on achieving something, that is the end of it, then we have to just close, wrap up and leave. No, we have to learn from that failure. Where did you go wrong? And how best can we move forward? So basically this pillar is one of the key components when it comes to strengthening the social fabric of communities that we work with. Okay, I feel like I've been talking too much.
like, no, it's amazing. And also, you're talking too much, because you have such a powerful message. You said you're talking too much. I don't think so. It's such important work. And I think my question is for you, as Sibo, what
Yeah.
are you learning? Why is this so important? This whole thing that you've described, what you are doing with your communities. Again, a powerful statement there. Do you work for the community? Do you work with the community, or you work at the community? Because then I think as a facilitator, you also have to have an ownership, and the community also has to have the same ownership. Sounds like a partnership. So what's your reflection?
Yes.
Why is
Okay.
it important and urgent?
Okay. Trust, if I may say, trust is built on different levels. So it being built on different levels, I can tell you about trust being built with local leaders, trust being built with stakeholders, trust being built with community members who are the farmers, who are even implementing the program. So this pillar for us, it means that if we fail to build trust across all these levels, our design is going to be weak, because one component or one group of people might feel like they have been excluded from the implementation or from participating in the program, because not everyone is implementing. Some people are advisors, just like the government extension officers, and some people are they advocate for the work that we do, just like the farmers. So they are over and above implementers. So if you miss strengthening that social fabric, the stronger you are, the successful you can be. So I feel like you have to ensure that you build trust. You have to ensure that you strengthen your social fabric before you even maybe talk about what project you are going to do. Let them trust you. Let them trust the project that you're bringing. Let them trust the implementation process, because projects are a life cycle. So them being life cycles, different people play different roles. For example, in mobilization, we can tell that the forefront are people that are there over and above us mobilizing the farmers. We have got the leaders that have to understand what we want to do in the community. So if you fail to strengthen your relations in that phase, implementation is not going to be really successful, because people can end up being skeptical to say, if the leaders are failing to understand what they want to do here, who am I as a farmer to adopt this concept? So you have to take it like in terms of different levels that need different strengthening. And at the same time, when you look at even implementation, you have to also strengthen it there also, because you have got headers. In case of our project, our program, we've got headers that play a key role. You've got farmers who are doing the real cropping that play a key role. You've got also livestock owners who have got the tool that is necessary or that drives our program. So you see how you have to build trust. They have to trust you to say, if I give them, or if I allow my neighbor to have my livestock overnight, will it be taken good care of? Will I see it well in the morning? Will I also get the same, what I cannot say favor, but the same service that my neighbor has gotten from me, where once they are done imparting his or her field, they come to my field. So it's all about trust and building that trust, and also remembering that whatsoever that we do is on collaborative basis. It's not like one group is going to do everything, but we have to collaborate, be it in terms of the expenses that we incur in the project. There are some that we have to collaborate on, especially let me take you back a bit on the livestock health management activity that we do. It's not entirely the organization that is bearing the expenses, but the organization together with farmers have got that mutual understanding to say the organization has got a certain percentage that they bring on board, and the communities through their community fund also bring a certain amount to the table, because at the end of the day, we are both working together. It's not like Equal Trust is working for. No, we are working together to achieve these results.
Wow. Thank you, Smo.
Thank you.
The partnership and establishing many wins on the journey and establishing that place of trust that
Yes.
we have everyone trusting the process to a place of actual implementation. I think
Yeah.
I have a friend who also always says, doing any plan or drafting a grazing plan will take you maybe 30 minutes, but implementation
Yeah.
take a well-collaborated community. So Sibo, I'm going to give you
Yeah.
just a few more minutes to just take us through your own reflections, and we can wrap up our beautiful time together.
Okay, let me summarize a bit with the previous slide that we
Yes.
I just passed this one, the community-based research documentation. I'm afraid I cannot skip it because
Your
it's
passion.
one of our, if I can say in quotes,
Yeah.
my passion and the
Yeah.
and the new child in the market.
Yes.
We are so grateful for the partners that are working with us on this one, because they have even made everyone involved in the program aware that community-based research and documentation is very critical, especially for farmers to have those skills to research, to document, because those two skills, they help them to tell their story better. So in brief, we were able through partnering with one of the network partners, which is Pelham, we're able to engage 10 farmers to be co-researchers, as you can see them there. And these co-researchers have gone through focus group discussion, training, and they've done the focus group themselves also. They've gone through questionnaires and like using them as a research method. And also they've done interviews as research methods. So for us, that is like amazing, because it made us really appreciate as an organization that participatory action research is very key, because through the participatory action research that they did, we were able to sort of understand what exactly our weakness as an organization in this program. And also it has given us a platform where we are getting real data, because it is the farmers that are collecting the data. It's not like fabricated. So in such cases where participatory action research is used, peer-to-peer, that is farmer to farmer, people are easy to open up to each other. People are easy to sort of understand, because it's a peer-to-peer, one farmer explaining to the next farmer what the program is all about and what the research will be all about. So there's that trust. I'm sorry to use it again, but there's that trust to say, okay, honestly, what I'm saying here is going to remain confidential, the ethical consideration. What I'm saying here is exactly what my peer will understand better than when they had sent a field officer, you see. So community-based research has been very, very amazing and awesome for us as an organization. So moving on to the lessons learned. Okay, I'll summarize them, because I feel like I will say a lot if I use that slide. But what we have learned is that nature functions in wholes. So we cannot really do regenerative agriculture and say, I'm going to pick on, let's say, I'm going to pick on vegetation to focus on. But vegetation relies on healthy soils. So we cannot really remove one pillar from the equation. We have to look at it as a whole for us to really achieve the good results, because ecosystems cannot operate as just separate from each other. And also we have realized that farmers are the cornerstone of this regenerative agriculture. The reason being that, just like what I said, to say they need the platform to lead. They need the platform to research. They need the platform to document, because they are the implementers of the project. They understand it better. So once you say implement, and then we're going to do the research and documentation, we are likely to get biased information from them, because they'll feel like they've been excluded in the whole equation of research, and also of the whole program as a whole. It feels like organization come to take only. They don't want to make them owners of the programs. So we are saying farmers are the cornerstone of this regenerative agriculture movement. So yeah, basically I think that's that. And maybe the last statement that is on my summary is that Ikuku Trust works in land, economic, and social regeneration, just like we have seen in the pillars that we are working in. Is from, we've got the land, and then we get to economic, and then we get to social regeneration. So basically that's that, Precious. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sibo. And thank you for keeping the connections going throughout the whole story. In the end, for a
Okay.
thriving ecosystem, a thriving local
Yes.
economy, and a thriving community that relates well. And I think the reason why this People's Food Summit is so important is that we get to harvest such beautiful stories as yours from the little corner of Zimbabwe, but it's relatable, I'm sure, to everyone across the world.
Yes.
So thank you, Sibo, and good luck with the rest of your journey ahead. And we look forward to a lot more stories. Thank you, Sibo.
Thank you, Precious. Thank you. Bye.
Hi again. Welcome to the People's Food Summit 2024. I am here with Karen Nekesa, sister and a friend who's based in Kenya. We just know that she's in Kenya by location, but we also think that she is our African advocate in the areas of seed and food sovereignty. Karen, you're welcome. Welcome to our call.
Thank you, Precious.
Thank you for taking it so early in the morning. That's really nice, because life has been very busy lately for you. Yeah, before I spend any time or mess up your credentials, please just tell us briefly who you are, what you're involved with right now, and we can just continue with our chat.
All right. Thank you so much, Precious, and thanks for hosting me. My name is Karen Nekesa. Yeah, and thanks for calling me an African advocate. Sometimes I find myself in this field of networking, collaboration, and influencing policies at different levels. But I work for an organization called Seeds and Knowledge Initiative, but also supporting regional schools and colleges permaculture program in advocacy and communication work. For the Sky regional team, I'm supporting them with communication work around farmer-led seed systems, and just to have the farmer's voice reach the world. Farmers are the foundation of the seed and the food that we talk about. And without farmers, we cannot be able to survive. And that is what I always tell people. Farmers are very important, and they should be at the center of everything that we do around seed and food sovereignty. But I also just want to say that people might wonder how I became this passionate about seed and food. It's because I come from an indigenous community in Western Kenya, but now working for in Africa. So I'm working supporting different organizations, but also advocating for farmers' rights. So in this indigenous community, I like talking about this because this is actually what made me really passionate about food. And I lived with my grandmother in the village. So I learned a lot about how to look after land, how to select seed, how to grow the best seed, how to manage the seeds, how important African food and indigenous food is, and how nutritious it is. So then I came into this movement working for civil society organizations, but I'm professionally a journalist. But immediately I left my journalism class. I decided to work for civil society organization, at first trying to edit farmers' voices and the community's voices in terms of reports and annual reports. But then later, just got into this passionate way of advocating for their rights in terms of seed and food. So currently also I'm the co-chair of the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, Agroecology for Climate Action Working Group. And we are supporting also in terms of getting people together to understand what climate action is, but also advocating for agroecology to be included in the policy spaces from the national level to global level. Currently, we are working with negotiators to ensure that people's voices, especially farmers and the community, in terms of climate action, their voices and the issues they face are actually discussed at the UNFCCC level. So I think, Precious, briefly, that's what I can say about myself.
That's a beautiful brief because you're carrying so much on your shoulders. That's definitely, and maybe the first starting point is to say thank you for being this powerhouse and this voice for Africa. So for those who do not know, Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa is an Africa-wide network, which is just short of what, 2 to 3 countries to be purely Pan-African, like existing in every African country. That's one organization that has really led the movement in the continent. And that's where Karen, you are serving as the chairperson for the Climate Action Group, where we participate together. That's really amazing. And then with the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, first started as a sub-regional place for pulling together knowledge. That's where we also contribute in the landscape and AE courses and youth mobilizing, but you are helping us push out the communications and making sure that the movement really grows beyond the boundary limitations that exist in Africa. And you are all the way up in East Africa, but just last week you were here in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa. So that's really awesome. And I gleaned that also your passion comes from the fact that you were raised by a grandmother. I think grandmothers need a special award because in the end, they really produce firebrands. So no, thank you so much. You know, I heard you speak about the involving the agroecology in the COP spaces, the UNFCCC. Can you tell me how's that going? Like, how's the movement building? Are we winning? And yes, our voices being there is a win, but you know, what's your perspective?
I would say that this is really a legislative win. I will begin by saying that, but before it was not easy. You know, when you work with the negotiators, they're representing countries, and each country has its own different context in terms of climate, in terms of weather pattern changes, you know, all those issues come in together. But also, again, it's about influencing these negotiators from the local level, and that's, I mean, from the government at the national level. So if we do not actually involve them at the national level, then we fail. The other issue, just before I get to how it is going, is when you want to involve the negotiators on climate change, you really have to understand the national adaptation plans and national determined contribution, NDCs. So what we are doing as a climate working group with AFSA, and also to get, scaling up to the other organizations within the African network, is to ensure that communities, farmers, and when I talk about farmers, I don't only mean farmers who grow and plant the seed, but also we talk about indigenous community. The pastoralists are able to understand how to participate at the national level in terms of policy influence. So we have managed to really mobilize these countries, but for now we've worked with about 12 African countries in AFSA, just as we scale up to the other, because AFSA, you said, is left only with 3 or 4 to become a Pan-African, yeah. So we want to scale this up to the other countries. But of course, when we do this, we share information across all the African countries that are within the AFSA network, so that they can also engage in terms of having communities engage and participate in NDCs and NAPs. So once that is done and dusted, we now bring them together into a continental discussion, continental dialogue. So we get to understand where the challenges are, what are the achievements at the national level. From there, we are able to synthesize information that we can now take to the COPs. So I would say that since COP27 in Egypt, it has been moving smoothly. And because also we have been engaging and supporting, sometimes financially, the negotiators, the Africa group of negotiators, to understand what agroecology is. Because what we talk
a long
about
process, because those walls are very thick. That's
yes.
the walls are very
It's,
thick. And I wanted to, yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to check, like, what has been the entry point? I'm sure it's been a long time coming for us to really be found in those spaces where we now influence those who are
yeah.
negotiating in the room. Maybe it's a nice place to also chip in and fit in what has been the strategy.
Yeah. So the strategy, that's why I chose to begin from the national level. That has been the strategy. And at the national level, the other strategy has been, governments develop what we call country positions. So we have placed ourselves strategically in these countries to ensure that our voices are heard into the country submissions that will be submitted at the COP. So I was getting into the synthesizing of information into now that continental voice. So we do this and come up with a position for the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, pastoralists, indigenous community, women and the youth, just which we present at the COPs. So since we've been very active since COP 27 in Egypt, and this is where we were able to really convince and influence negotiators at that level to accept agroecology. And just to not to say too much, because it's a long story, is that now they accepted to have agroecology as a future topic in the UNFCCC. And so currently, from the Bonn meeting, the SABSTA meeting this year in June, we also had a discussion with them. It's still there under sustainable agriculture approaches. So what we need to do is to now, as a working group of AFSA and networks within the continent, organize and get somebody who can really talk about agroecology at the UNFCCC space so that they understand it well. And then we can start organizing for workshops at the global level for people to understand agroecology. So I would say, Precious, it's been a journey. Consistency is very important in negotiators. Consistency is very important with policymakers from the local level at the national level. And then what you get is actually you start harvesting fruits bit by bit. So we are doing this, and we are able now to really work together with negotiators at the global level, and they have accepted agroecology. And now they can talk about it and believe that it works.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it does sound like we are moving towards having a focal person or focal persons.
Yes.
that we can have in those rooms. So, okay. So usually, like policy, I think, has to be informed by grassroots, which you work with grassroots, all family farmers who are doing agroecology, who then fit into the policy space. I believe as a communicator, that's one of your main roles. How do you rope in these communities to get into Because do you also bring them physically and you also take their stories? And because they're also scientists in essence, because they are the ones with the results.
Yes.
So how do we bring that and consolidate it up in the
I agree.
top spaces,
I
for
agree.
example?
Yeah, thanks, Precious. That's very interesting. And I agree with you. They are the best researchers. You know, when we work with farmers, it's fun. I would say it's fun. One is because they have this indigenous knowledge and practices that they really refer to when we are discussing issues. And so what we have been doing is to just have these community-led initiatives by having researchers engage the community, the farmers, in terms of research, so that they don't leave out the information that farmers have and the indigenous communities have. So this is something that we have been doing, and this has been done mostly with support from partners in different countries and members in different countries, just to bring these stories together for amplifying. So one thing that is very important before we even do this research is to ensure that the community is aware of such information in terms of conducting research. So if they are aware, and if you really build their capacity to understand how important it is for them to share that practical information, I call it practical because the community is hands-on. It's not just about written. It's not about, sitting on your desk and checking what is happening. It's about what they do every day. It's about what they see. It's about what they experience. And so I say experience because we also work with communities who really protect what we call natural sacred sites. And when you look at these natural sacred sites communities, they're very passionate about indigenous knowledge and the culture. And when we talk about seed and food sovereignty, is about control over your own resources at that local level, but also having it culturally appropriate. So when we have this, building their capacity, but also just making them understand and also participating in research at that local level, then they're able to now get the confidence to participate and raise their voices, either through interviews. Sometimes we conduct interviews so that we get their voices at that local, at the national and global level. And this could be done through podcasts. We do some short videos. We also do the submissions actually have the community voices, and also have media just engaging them. And some of these journalists we work with as a network bring in a lot because they're able to go to the communities and get their stories. Some are actually feature stories that have really encouraged the negotiation process, especially at the global level. But something else I want to say is that, first of all, in this seed and food sovereignty movement, when you talk about communities and the farmers, whichever way you want to put it, the communities have really tried to preserve their own indigenous seeds. And we know that this is very important in terms of bringing evidence at the global level. So we can be able to show how communities have their own seed banks at the local level, but also have to understand how they have revived some of the lost seeds. And now we are able to use it, especially now because it is resilient to climate change. And some of these seeds have been revived. And when we talk about cassava, when we talk about finger millet, when we talk about sweet potatoes, this is food that we could actually have even when the weather is really bad. Those, when our grandmothers were alive and our forefathers, these are foods that we really had. And now we are losing them. Some people are actually demonizing them and saying they're not nice. What we want is bread. But what I'm talking about and bringing on the table now today, as we celebrate World Food Day, is to ensure that people really appreciate indigenous traditional food and also revive their seeds and show that this one has been brought back. We really didn't have it, but it's coming up back slowly. But what I call to governments is to just my call to action to the government and policymakers is to really look at farmers' rights and really encourage them to share and save their seeds.
Sure, Karen. I could listen to you any day, all day.
Thank you, Precious.
Yeah, giving me chills. I mean, such passion exuding from you. And as we were talking, you know, I've always been thinking deeply, language is very important. And I think in our movement, words are also very important. How we place them is also important. I realize we don't talk about food security. We talk about only sovereignty. Can you tell
Yes.
me the difference and why that matters so much? I think it's nice for anyone who
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah, for me, food security, let me start with that. Food security is having someone just enjoy anything, not nutrition. So we do not really use the security word because it can actually bring in food that is not appropriate and culturally appropriate by a community or by a country. Because one, you have no control over that. And most of the time, it's not local. That is why we see when we are facing hunger in our countries, they bring food aid. And normally what you see is just maize and beans. And you do not know how these maize and beans were produced. But when you talk about food sovereignty, it's control over your land, your water, your seed, all the resources that you have. And that is why I bring in the issue of farmers having control over their own seed, not relying on corporates to get seeds, but they control their own seed. Secondly, is seed that is culturally or food that is culturally appropriate. I know I was in Zimbabwe a week ago, and there's diversity, you know. That is what we mean by sovereignty. There's diversity. You cannot go hungry in Zimbabwe. You cannot go hungry in South Africa, I mean, in Kenya, in Uganda, in these African countries. They have food they identify themselves with. And so it is very important that when you talk about food sovereignty, we are actually asking that we have control of our food. We have our own local food, which is sustainable. Sustainability means food that is resilient, seed that is resilient to any type of climate. So when you look at the two differences, security and sovereignty, is that sovereignty for me simply is just enjoying any type of food, but sovereignty is nutritious. I was in a meeting the other day and we were talking about messaging. Somebody actually said, you know, malnutrition begins in the soil. And somebody else actually said, very important one. He said, eat nutritious, not color. So that is what we mean by sovereignty. So I think for us as a movement, as a network, we really support the word sovereignty as compared to security. Thank you, Precious.
Malnutrition begins in the soil. That's so powerful. I think totally adopt that because as we are running towards growing season here, so we're obviously reminding each other again how to plant agroecologically. And I think that's a new slogan for me. I wish you knew who actually said it. And it's a nice quote. Malnutrition begins in the soil. I'm sure many people
I know the person who said it.
Okay.
It was a participant. I was having this training in Zimbabwe. A participant from Kenya called Erastus Minor. He works for Rodi Kenya, a training center. Yes.
Yes, that's very nice. That's amazing. Yeah.
And I was impressed because most of the time, sorry, Precious, for cutting you short. Most of the time, we care about the seed only, the plant.
Yeah.
And forget that our soils have been poisoned.
Yes. And
so
I think
we should actually take care of that.
That's why we have the, you know, the initiatives, healthy soil, healthy food. Like, don't talk healthy food without talking about where it comes from. Like,
exactly,
what the community of where it comes from. So that's really powerful. And, you know, just when you say that you were in Zimbabwe, because we are in the midst of a heavy season. We had the worst drought, El Nino-induced drought in the last growing season. And I think as a region and colleagues, as we were learning from what was happening, yes, there was failure, but because of the agroecology movement, regeneration movement, encouraging farmers to tap into local wisdoms and planting the crops that will withstand all forms of harshness. That's why you see some displays in Harare. I'm sure if
yeah.
it was last year or last of last year, you would have seen like a lot more. Like for us, people are like, oh, this year wasn't so good, but it's still wow. It's still an array of days. You still enjoyed all our local cuisines. Same
Yes,
with
amazing.
tomatoes. And I feel like the El Nino was really coming to embarrass the maize industry or the maize industry. The
Yeah.
total failure happened with the maize crop, especially. It was just, and if a farmer only did a monocrop, they definitely were hard hit. But when you do
Yeah.
a mixed planting, your resilience is sure because you are definitely going to harvest other things that are not maize. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really powerful. And I guess that's where you come in for messaging to
Yes.
really push all these highlights. What were some of the highlights that came out for you from the Zimbabwean Seed and Food Festival?
Number one, for me, because I was so much with the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, what I really liked is the farmers gathering. Most of the time, and these were not farmers from from Zimbabwe only. We had farmers from Malawi, Zambia, and South Africa joining the Good Seed and Foods Festival in Zimbabwe. That to me really meant a lot. Most of the time, we just think about ourselves as civil society organization staff or people working for CSOs and forget the farmers. And I said before when we began that farmers are everything. Without them, we cannot survive. Without them, we cannot even get this messaging precious. So what really gave me a lot of energy was the farmers that we had at the Zimbabwe Seed and Foods Festival. And then, the presentations they made, finally, they were given some space to speak, and they sang a song that was farmers related, with information, with messages that cut across, and that was really, really powerful. So when we bring farmers also to such events, that's very important. The other thing that really impressed me is that Zimbabwe has made this to be an annual event. And now it's not only for Zimbabweans, it's for it's the whole continent was there. The Africans and people from other European countries are there. Funders were supporting people to participate. It has become something that we really have to learn from and do the same in other countries. I know other countries do that, but it's not as much as what I saw in Zimbabwe. So to me, that is a highlight, and that is a lesson I've learned to communicate across the continent so that other people can learn from it. And I think I got so much information. I'm really, really struggling to work on the footage and the pictures and the issues that came out. It's really taking time, but I think with time, even if it takes me 6 months, I'll be sharing bit by bit. The other one is the value addition Zimbabweans have. As we speak, I came with so much rosella, hibiscus, whatever you call it, baobab powder, baobab juice. We rarely get that. I was impressed. They even had food that really attracts the youth and the children. Ice cream made rosella, ice cream made from baobab. And when you enjoy it, it's very nice. I tasted the one for mulberry and it was beautiful. It was that very nice taste. So I think that is also the other highlight I bring, but also the issue of how really people are talking about agroecology. I thought really this is now becoming an issue. Everybody now is just talking about agroecology, regenerative agriculture, biointensive agriculture, permaculture. We have all those terminologies, but I think we all meet at the agroecology. So because of all the principles, and I saw all the principles of agroecology, come from the Seed and Food Festival in Zimbabwe. So we really have to keep up this, and especially because of strengthening networks on seed and food sovereignty, it's very important that we keep talking about it and sharing more information. I think pressures for us, and even for Regeneration International, we really have to send out more and more messaging. But something that I really also enjoyed is the use of local language. That is fine, so that we can actually get somebody to interpret. And actually at the Seed and Knowledge Initiative dialogues, we also encourage that. That is why we had farmers. Sometimes we say, oh, because this farmer cannot speak English, cannot communicate in French or English, we cannot take them. But this should not be an issue, especially for us who work with farmers and communities. I think we can be able to interpret to them, for them to follow the process, for them to understand that whatever they're doing is being appreciated and is being done in other countries. I think I want to finalize by saying that the Seed and Food Festival in Zimbabwe was powerful, and it brought different people together. It brought the young people, the youth, everybody else was there. So I really appreciate the organizers on this World Food Day, and really want to encourage other African countries to have that and learn from that, so that we can have many more seed and food festivals in our countries.
That's so powerful. And the language commentary is also one of the very big ones, because this is a cultural movement. This is a movement that acknowledges local wisdoms. And
yes,
it's only expressed in local language. So every language matters. And if we want to internationalize it, it's nice to have translations. That was such a powerful commentary. So maybe just as we are wrapping up our chat this morning, I hope those who were listening visualized what was going on.
Yeah.
Because Karen did such a good job, and I feel like you really gave us a nice push as Zimbabwe.
Thank you.
You know, thank you. Thank you so much. And congrats to the organizers again for bringing everyone together. What could be you had a message for policymakers to create spaces for farmers, but I think another piece is the funders. You know, what's the message for funders? Because I think the wave is showing direction of where the money should be put at Grassroots. Like, what is your special message to them? And we can nicely conclude, and you can wish the world a happy World Food Day when you're done talking about funders. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Precious. I think, first of all, I really want to thank the funders. From the space we are, Precious, I know you also know that we are now, agroecology is actually being felt by the funders, and it's really attracting funders to support it more. But a message from me would be, let us fund initiatives that are more impactful. By saying this, I mean where we bring farmers and everybody together to just have a dialogue, but also showcase. We're also doing what we call My Food is African campaign in Africa. And I think this is also a campaign that is moving so fast. So if we can have such initiatives and really just have more resources going to campaigns, more resources going to farmers, initiatives, bringing them together. I know the exchange visits are powerful. If I bring a farmer from Zimbabwe to Kenya, for them to learn, they will share a lot of knowledge. So such initiatives are what I would really want to request, and to really request our funders to keep supporting us. But I really appreciate so far the move we have made. And during our policy work, we have actually recognized this, that the funders are really supporting our work, but just request that they support more of farmers-led initiatives, but also including more of the food and seed festivals, because what brings us together actually also is food. Food is social. If we're enjoying a meal together, we are doing so well, and that is when you enjoy the meal better. But if you sit alone in a room quietly and eat, you not even enjoy, you might not even finish that food. So food brings us all together. And so I just want to say that, Precious, and really wish the world a very, very happy World Food Day. And please, let's keep local, eat your own, know where your food comes from, grow your own, eat your own. Thank you so much.
And that will be a wrap. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, World, for your ears in our morning. I'm sure it will be your afternoon by the time you hear this. But thank you. Karen, have a beautiful day. And I really appreciate
thank you, Precious.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. It was such a beautiful dialogue. And we hope that the world will listen.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Okay. No, yes, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious.
everyone. Welcome to the People's Food Summit 2024. This is the African segment, and I'm here with the incredible Frances Davies, a sister, friend, and colleague from the beautiful country of Zambia. Frances is an activist, practitioner, facilitator of agroecology and seed and food systems. She's done expansive work through different networks and organizations across the region. She's also Africa-wide, but her main role is activism. And today she brings us the story of how she's been working to raise communities to the awareness of really pushing back on the greenwashing and the green revolution agenda, and how they're helping farmers to do both agroecology while resisting the greenwashing information that's going around. Frances, you're welcome.
Thank you. It really is an honor to be here. Thank you so much, Precious.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really just going to welcome you to just dive in, introduce yourself a little more, because I know you're a lady of many skills. And
Thank you.
also go ahead and talk about the state of things now on the continent and some of the work that you've been doing with farmers.
Thanks so much, Precious. So I'm Frances Davies, and my home is in Zambia, and also with the Zambian Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity, which is a national network organization that I was one of the founding members of the Secretariat of in 2015, although the network started many years before that. And I mean, ZAB started really as a resistance organization of farmers, civil society organizations, scientists, and activists who were concerned about what was going on in our food system, and particularly what was going on in relation to seed, because seed really is the start of everything. And so this is where a lot of our work starts, is thinking about seed, working with farmers on reviving and restoring farmer-led seed systems, and through that, the entry point into the entire rest of the food system, because you control seed, you control agriculture, you control food, and you control people. So this is really where we start. So I live and work in Zambia, but I also work in the region and with other African continental groups. So firstly, with the Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Southern Africa, with SKY, the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, and then also with AFSA, the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. And all of these organizations really are connecting with farmers on the ground, bringing knowledge, resources, skills, capacity, thinking, and really what the work is about, reviving and building energy on the ground. And through this, we're seeing that, you know, there are conversations and movements and practices happening in spaces that just wasn't there 10 years ago. And so this is something, the theme of what we're celebrating today in Africa is hope, resilience, and abundance through agroecology and regenerative actions. And this is really at the heart of this, and we can see that. And this is a huge change and something really to celebrate compared to many, many years ago. But unfortunately, in the same sense as we are making the most incredible strides, this is also challenging business as usual. And so as we are seeing farmers' power grow on the ground and people standing up and saying enough is enough, the impacts of climate change are real and raw. So too, business as usual is double downing on their policies and their pushback and their very, very sinister tactics, which keep the industrial food system locked in place and keep African citizens disempowered and our food system in control of a very few number of multinational corporations, and our continent increasingly hungry and unhealthy and incredibly sick. And this really impacts women the most and children. Zambia, for instance, is one of the most malnourished countries in the world, and yet we have everything in this country. We have everything. We have water, we have the most incredible forest and soil and capacity and spirit. And so there is something fundamentally wrong with what is going on our continent. And we can see that in the meetings with agencies, with our government, in all of the policies that we connect to. We can see this invisible hand coming through of where policies are really being formulated. And despite what farmers are asking again and again and again, this has not been translated into policy and translated through into changing programs, to funding infrastructure for agroecology on the ground, which is where we so desperately need it in the face of very, very critical climate change and biodiversity loss. So I would like to start really first with a short video that actually encapsulates this from the voice of farmers. From Petronella, who is a farmer that we work with in Zambia, who is a leader and an incredible inspiration. And she's well known across Zambia for her seed. And so if you will let me share this, please, with you.
Yes, go ahead and share the screen.
This seed was given to us by God. We have sovereign right to this seed. It is a symbol of our freedom to be who we are, to grow what we want to grow, to eat what we want to eat, to share what we want to share. It's a birthright, and it is a symbol of our cultural heritage. I found my life's purpose growing this local seed and distributing it far and wide. And yes, I have been threatened, but I'm not fazed. It's something that I'm prepared to die for. No one has got the right to come and dictate to us which seed to grow, which seed to keep, which seed to share. What right do they have? Can they be above God who gave us this seed? Let me tell you one thing. Every day I get on my knees and I pray to God, and I come against these multinationals that are trying to destroy our seed sovereignty. And they will not succeed. You will not succeed. At the end of the day, it is these bullies, these multinationals who benefit, not us. We are slowly killing ourselves, and we are slowly killing off the environment while they go away happy with the fat bank accounts. You cannot fight God. You can intimidate us. You can bully me, but you will never succeed against God. And I will never stop growing this maize because it was given to me by God. I really get upset that a man, a person, an organization can take it upon themselves to dictate to everybody in the world how they should live their lives, what they should eat, what seed to grow. What right do you have? You've got no right. And I repeat myself, you will not succeed. It doesn't matter how many people you kill in the process, but you are not going to succeed. And my husband and I will not stop growing this local seed. In fact, we are looking for bigger tracts of land where we can grow this on a larger scale. You don't intimidate us. We fear only God, not man.
What a powerful video.
So Petronella and that story really just says it all. And that video was actually, that video was made in 2020 and it is still circulated. I see it going through the WhatsApp groups. And it's had the most views, and it tells the story of exactly what we're facing now in Zambia, in fact, and is an example of what's replayed throughout all of our policy levels, from the local scale, within chiefs' palaces, within district offices, at local seed festivals, all the way through into our national policy making spaces, to the African Union, and then to the United Nations spaces, is big business, intimidating, and shaping narratives, and the impacts happen on the ground with farmers like Petronella. And her story keeps on being circulated because people keep on saying, this is the reality that farmers are facing. Petronella's seeds are so in demand in Zambia, and yet she is policed and hounded. And the selling of her seed, unless she certifies it through the particular standards and processes, means that sharing her seed is illegal. Selling her seed is illegal in Zambia. And increasingly in the laws that we're currently facing is that these kind of seeds are no longer accessible on our markets. And so these are the struggles that farmers are facing across Zambia at the moment, the particular policy crisis that we're facing, and then through across the region and the African Union as well. I can share more on that if needs be.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I think it brings me to just yesterday, we had a dialogue with Swati, and realizing that the government there is sort of now aligning with farmers. Do you think this will ever happen in our region? And how is that progressing? Because imagine if we had even 100 Petronellas, the type of passion and clarity that she's portraying, and she says she does get emotional because this is not only an issue that is far-fetched. The impact on women and children, women's health, is quite evident. These days, everybody's got some hormonal problems. Everybody's got lots of women's problems, actually. So that is, the video is so deep and moving, but like, what would it take for our government to really hear?
You said, imagine if we had 100 Petronellas. There are 100 Petronellas. There are thousands of Petronellas.
Yes.
There are thousands.
Certainly, yeah.
And I mean, this is what we celebrate, but this speaks to both the power of the growing movement, as well as the power of the policy lock-in that we are facing. And what's also incredible is that there are amazing policymakers who we work with in all of our countries. I mean, they are the ones who come to our seed fairs and buy farmers' indigenous seed to take and to plant in their own gardens, and really then often go back, and sign in the very same laws that are making those very same seeds illegal. And this is because, for instance, in Zambia, the way our policies are being formulated is because of these invisible hands that are coming down. And really the harmonization processes in Africa, that the capture at the United Nations level by the likes of AGRA, the likes of multinational corporations, lobby groups, and we saw it from the UN Food Systems Summit into the African Union, the push for biotechnology and harmonized seed guidelines in the African Union, and then down at country level, the way that seed laws and agricultural policies continue to get shaped towards continuing to push and prioritize and subsidize the industrial food system rather than funding agroecology. So yes, there are hundreds and thousands of farmers who are standing up and who are saying, you know, this is my seed and this is my food. And the My Food is African campaign across the African continent is really making that prominent at the moment and linking these. But these lock-ins with seed, with genetically modified organisms, and again, the same policies there that exist with the use of highly hazardous pesticides and increasing use, this package of the Green Revolution technologies, together with all of the policies that exist that lock farmers and consumers into the industrial food system. And I mean, recently in the last year, there's been a very profound process happening in Africa with the post-Malabo agenda. So the new roadmap for the development of agriculture on the African continent. And from every single region, everyone was saying agroecology, 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 farmer-led seed systems. These are the basis that we need to support in order to achieve food sovereignty, in order to achieve climate justice, to have a just transition, that this is the basis that we need to be supporting. And yet, at the last minute, all of this was stripped out. So this is really evident, and our policymakers know, they know it.
And
really so this is
the power of the external institutions. I'm just going to pick a little bit on what you said, that the policymakers, those who sit in the policy tables, they come to buy agroecologically grown seeds. I think it's a very strong statement that really speaks to the rigidity of the institutions as a being, and how there seems to be so little that human friends can do to change, whether it's because we're in debt as countries or we're really controlled by the money of the big corporations. It's quite sad, you know, as an occurrence. And the fact that in the documentation of the post-Malabo, we were totally ignored after so much noise was made about it. It's you know, I guess the struggle will continue.
The struggle will continue and is building. And yes, the debt, the neocolonial control of our countries, this is insidious and this is everywhere. And I mean, we see now you know, all of our climate financing, all of our donor financing, instead of going to fund farmers and infrastructure for agroecology and the transition on the ground, is going now to fund multilateral agencies, international finance agencies, and the likes of FAO in country, AGRA in country, to do our policy work, to implement our so-called adaptation strategies, to be implementing our climate adaptation, handing out beehives in local areas. I mean, the FAO and AGRA have no place to be doing this, and yet this is what's happening, and it is sidelining local civil society organizations and farmer organizations that exist on the ground, people's own agency. They know what they need for themselves. And this has been sidelined because of the capture of not only our policies, but our financing instruments. And so, yeah, this is this building, this bottom-up movement, and why the people's movement, like the what we're celebrating on World Food Day, really is about noticing and recognizing this bottom-up power that is saying enough is enough and reclaiming our own seeds and our own food. And we've recently had the most remarkable process in Harare, Zimbabwe, your own home country, where we in fact brought in a convening together with Pelham Zimbabwe leading it, and the Zimbabwean organizations who annually host the Good Seed and Food Festival, which is just the most remarkable gathering of celebration and music and farmers, people coming together in Harare, that we have been wanting to visit and convene for many, many years. And this event culminated with the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa's biennial food systems conference and the Agroecology Fund's learning event. So everyone was coming together from across Africa to this convening in Harare. And the Seed and Knowledge Initiative supported farmers from across the Southern African region, from Malawi, Zambia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. Over 100 farmers and civil society organizations convened together in Harare for this event to celebrate 10 years actually of the Seed and Knowledge Initiative's work, but also to celebrate what we're calling Our Seeds, Our Rights, Our Lives campaign by farmers. And this was really at the forefront of this was a statement that farmers had developed in a process 2 years prior in Zambia on a farmers' rights campaign and seminar that had happened in Zambia. And so these kind of things are moving over the years. You know, this process happens in Zambia, farmers come together, they dialogued for 2 weeks, they had an incredible exchange program from across the region, they came together and they developed a statement themselves of their demands around farmers' rights and the support that they are needing. This was taken and delivered, in fact, into the international treaty meetings in Rome last year. And then that statement actually came back and we refined it and reworked it in Harare in September. And then it was read again at an event, a public event in Harare, and linked to the Seed and Food Festival, where we all gathered and celebrate and learnt from Zimbabwe. So these are the kind of festivals, these coming togethers that are building a lot of momentum on the ground and really do show the evidence of this abundance that is growing and being revived in Africa, led by farmers.
And I think the gathering that happened in Harare this year, there were lots of farmers also just from all over Zimbabwe, even from our region. That's like 12 hours bus drive away. 14 farmers went and also attended. We took part in the Agroecology Fund's gathering. You know, there's lots of knowledge building that is happening, strategy. And some of the strategies, as we've been chatting, includes involving markets, the agroecological markets, youths in action, like farmers in action. It feels like everyone's really pulling every muscle together, and that the funding space and the funding world, we're sort of getting really good recognition. It felt like we really created a big cloud and big statement by everyone coming to support Zimbabwe in their National Seed and Food Festival. But, you know, that's the core part of our lives. So it's really exciting. And knowing that you're also a big part of the Seed and Knowledge Initiative and AFSA, we would like to say congratulations on the camaraderie that has been expressed and happening. Yeah, I think they'll start to feel the heat. I think they already are. It's quite a big threat.
They are, and this is happening, I mean, as I was saying, you know, around the seed and food festivals as well, but also, you know, what's really important around the movement around soil fertility and around reclaiming soil fertility as farmers. And this has really been very evident in the spread of biofertilizers across the African continent. You know, there were just a couple of trainings that happened in spaces across the regions on the continent, and this has just organically spread. Farmer to farmer, community to community. People are sharing this. And this is actually about reclaiming, again, control over production, over soil fertility, the means to life back in farmers' hands. And this is why biofertilizers are so important. And also why we need to continue not only our work that seed remains in the hands of farmers, that soil fertility remains in the hands of farmers. And a lot of multinational corporations are now advertising organic fertilizers, the production themselves of organic alternatives to synthetic fertilizers, organic alternatives to pesticides. Whose hands are these in? Is this changing business as usual? Or is this just continuing to extract life and resources from this African continent? And so everything that we do, the foundation really of agroecology as a science, a practice, and a movement is around this political agenda to reclaim that control.
Power
and this is where This is
Yeah.
where this incredible work of farmer to farmer movement building happens. And where we see the incredible celebration happening is that these connections are being made,
Mm.
and it's reviving agency, people's agency on the ground. And so this is happening, and this really is where change will happen, and change is being seeded, and that's where the power lies. And that will really ultimately help us to achieve food sovereignty, rather than just continue to potentially, if we are lucky, produce more food to increase to feed our population.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
At what cost?
At what cost?
Yeah.
Our continent cannot survive any longer. We are suffering from the worst drought and humanitarian crisis in our region than we have in decades.
Yeah.
Because of climate change, because of biodiversity loss, because of the very same industrial agriculture systems that have destroyed our land and our communities and our lives. And people recognize this, and this must change, and it is changing. And celebrations like what's happened in Harare make that possible and make that visible.
Wow. This is so powerful and so moving. Power has to change hands. Power is beginning to change hands. Farmers are beginning to find a strategy, because literally, like you say, the biofermented fertilizers, and the natural farming, like we learned from Andhra Pradesh, small gatherings online, and then someone tells the next person, and then we are all ablaze doing that thing. And I think we'll get to a point where our voices can no longer be ignored, because so many people have jumped in. Imagine if we got in as well, the consumers who are already starting to be aware. Most people now are buying in agroecological territorial markets than the highway supermarket. So I think that awareness and the move is really being felt. Practice, the science, and then is informing the movement of everyone who is consuming food, and everyone is. So yeah, no, really, I mean, thank you, Frances. I don't know if you have another thing to share, and then we can wrap up our dialogue. That'll be awesome.
Thank you. I just really want to end by sharing a small clip from the Harare Good Food Festival, and that brings all of this together. That brings our street back together with farmers, and the joy of eating and consuming and growing our own food, of coming together in celebration, and really the demands by farmers that we need to fund agroecology now.
Yes.
Not part fund industrial agriculture and part fund agroecology. All funding needs to be directed to agroecology on the ground now, in order to help farmers to adapt to climate change urgently. And so this really is the demand of farmers. And I'm so grateful that we're coming together as a globe to recognize this around the world, and celebrate that through the People's Movement. So thank you so much, and let me close by sharing this movie.
Thank you so much. Yes, we're ready.
Okay. Amoyo mwe, amoyo mwe, amoyo mwe, amoyo mwe. Dabula bodi butemba ula tata, 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 amoyo mwe.
Oh,
thank you, Precious.
Such a refreshing video. Amoyo mwe with one heart.
With one heart.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Francis. And we really look forward to learning more from you, and we look forward to sharing this with the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to be here. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the People's Food Summit, the African segment. Today, I'm with a young and vibrant man from Malawi. His name is Jazzakah. Jazz, as we fondly call him on this side of the world, is a farmer, an agroecological practitioner, as well as an employee of an organization called Scope Malawi. There'll be links for anyone who'd like to follow his work. But over and above that, he plays a very important role in the Southern African region as the youth coordinator under our network partner called Seed and Knowledge Initiative. Jazz, thank you so much for joining us on this call and for coming to be a voice for the youths, especially to the People's Food Summit and World Food Day. So over to you, Jazz, for you to take us through your journey, and we'll have an opportunity to be chatting while you're also sharing your story.
Thank you very much, Precious, for having me. Like you said, my name is Jazzakah. Some call me Jazz, like you actually said, because they found the name actually long. So yeah, I work for an organization called Schools and College Permaculture, SCOPE. I'm the projects officer, where I foresee almost all the projects for the organization. And I think my journey in terms of into this field started when actually I was working under an organization. It's a youth-led organization called Concerned Youth Organization, where I was actually a project officer for a project that we were actually implementing regarding the climate mitigation and adaptation interventions. So that was my journey just after I graduated. But from there, then I started working with Scope in 2017. That's where I was introduced to agroecology and permaculture concepts. That's where the exposure almost opened everything for me. Yeah, now I could say I'm part of the agroecology field person.
And Jazz, what would have inspired you? I imagine you're a young man, vibrant. What drew you close to permaculture and agroecology in the beautiful land of Malawi?
Yeah, I think growing up as a child, it has always been part of my day-to-day life for me, because I couldn't even differentiate what is farming and what is culture. Because every day when I wake up in the morning, I know I see my father and my mother going to work. And this work we are talking about is farming. So yeah, growing up, I think that also led me to actually pursuing my my studies in college. I did agriculture education. So yeah, so I also did some teaching, where I'm also qualified to teach in secondary school in a field of agriculture. But then the type of agriculture that we learn in college is actually very different to the what we're actually talking about in terms of agroecology. So to some level, for me, it has always been difficult to actually understand what is happening in terms of the food systems that we are actually advocating and what is happening to our farmers. And this is per se, we are talking about my parents, the way how they farm. And you see that I used to have all these indigenous seeds. And in fact, when I talk to my mother to say, this is what we're actually doing, she loves to say, this is what we've been doing, but everything changed. What changed is now whereby we have been poisoned by, I think, the fast growing food industry, where everything that is actually too fast to actually grow, we want to actually get fast yields, more youth, that is perpetually being done by the corporate world, where they're actually advocating for farmers to actually use the synthetic fertilizers and everything that is associated with it. So with that in mind, you find that farmers are actually moving away from the indigenous way of actually doing things. In the process, this is where we have issues to do with food insecurity in the communities. Currently, my parents, they are unable to even harvest maize because for them it's just maize. But then recently, with the understanding that I have now, they've actually gone back to the diversification of different crops that we are actually trying to do. But now they are growing the sorghums, they are growing the millets, they are growing the sweet potatoes and the cassavas. And all this is because now I'm influencing, because they shifted because of the way how this world is actually moving.
That's pretty awesome. And amazing how almost all of us really in our region, we all have our roots that trace back to how we grew up rural with farming parents. We were mostly just farming for sustainability for our everyday thing. And we've sort of watched things change. So I want you to take us through your journey at Scope and Sky. I'm just inviting you. You can share some images if you have some. But for us to know, your voice is so powerful in our sub-region, and truly grateful that you're here to share with us all your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think like I said, I work as a projects officer for the organization Scope. At the same time, I'm also coordinating the youth work under under SKY, which is the Seed and Knowledge Initiative program. So SKY is actually a 15 partner-led organization that is actually looking to securing food sovereignty in the region, particularly in 4 countries. We're talking about Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, as well as South Africa. So that's where Scope is actually part and parcel of this network of organizations. And in terms of the contextual situation, which the area that we are actually operating, we are talking about in Southern Africa, where a growing number of youth actually being part of the population, which is the majority. And we are also looking at the increased number of employment levels, where we are talking about youth are unable to actually get work or jobs such that they need something to do in terms of income. At the same time, we are also facing a number of degradation, environmental wise. We are talking about issues to do with soils being depleted. We're talking about environment being actually degraded. We're talking about people actually cutting down trees, the kind of farming that we are actually, we just talked about it. So yeah, that is actually the contextual situation that we are talking about. At the same time, understanding that these are the issues that we are facing, there is a recognition that youth involvement in agroecology is very little. At the same time, we also find that it's very challenging for youth to be engaged in agroecology, not only agroecology, but farming at large. Because for youth, we are just talking about the same yesterday, where we have cases in terms of the way how we publicize issues to do with farming. It's also related to things that to do with people who are actually old. The youth are not part and parcel of this conceptual agroecology work. So for us, we understand that for sustainability of the agroecology work and the farmer-led seed system, we have to integrate youth. We also understand that if we are to actually shun away from the unemployment crisis, we have to get agroecology as a contribution to the unemployment cases. But also understanding that the innovation that youth actually portray, that also gives us a way to adapt in terms of reshaping the food systems. At the same time, we also understand, on the other hand, that youth, they may be custodians for our lands in the future. At the same time, we say that they are actually the future. At the same time, we also say that they are part of and parcel of this future that we are talking about. So that led to the establishment of a youth thematic group that focuses on seeing youth participation in agroecology as well as a movement in the Southern Africa through agroecology enterprises. So the purpose is to facilitate and increase our continuous engagement that support young people in agroecology's work implemented by the SKY partners. These SKY partners are the 15 organizations that we are talking about. So that's basically what led to this movement of youth thematic group.
That's awesome. So what is in the pipeline right now? I know you're working with schools as well. And but
Yes.
at the regional level, for example, this week, I know you guys are at the Seed and Food Festival, the National Seed and Food Festival. Thank you for coming to Zimbabwe, to our country. I also have a team and communal members that I work with that are on the way, and I know you guys will connect with all the youths that we also sent this year. I think we're all waking up to this, and for me, it's been wonderful for us as RI and as Precious to also participate in the thematic group for the youth. I think it has opened pathways also for the communities that I work with. But what are the plans ahead and how do you feel about it? Are you seeing a good beat, a good rhythm of movement?
Okay. Thank you for that, Precious. I think in terms of understanding, normally we assume that the youth are very passive reactors. That's the very bad assumption. But when it comes to things, if you expose the youth, they will be very reactive to things. So understanding also from the background that change is always difficult from when it comes from outside. But then when you actually are exposed, that's where it comes from within, because it's really difficult to be influenced from outside. So normally, so from the work with schools and college permaculture, we are actually undergoing a number of different interventions. One of them is looking at environmental education that focuses on the in-school and out-school youth. We are talking about primary school, secondary school, even colleges. Thus, we do implementation of the school health and nutrition programs, focusing on forest, food forest, gardening, and diversification of different school premises. We also try to bring in a concept of integrated land use design that focuses on how do we utilize space in terms of, because different schools have different landscapes altogether. So there are some schools which are urban, there are some schools which are very in rural, who have so much land and they can do things at the same time. But how do we maximize different landscapes? And this is where the integrated land use design is coming from. And some of the things that we also do is soil and water management. We teach learners into soil makings. We teach learners into mulching and different biofertilizer recipes. So that is the work that I do at Scope Malawi. But at the regional level, this is where we are coming in with a different agroecology enterprises that are focusing on how the youth are coming up to get motivated into the agroecology work. Because from my understanding as a youth as well, because you also mentioned that I'm also a farmer, and part of the work that I do is to actually get something. If you don't motivate the youth to get money, then this is the work that is actually going to be a lose-lose for everyone. So for them, somehow they are attracted to issues to do with income generating. This is where where the agroecology enterprise is actually coming into play. So we have fish farming, livestock production, beekeeping. Some are actually being taught into rocket stove, which we call Chitete Zombaula in our country. But this is actually a work that is being done by a different organization at a regional level. We have organizations who are from here in Zimbabwe, where we are talking about the Tsuro, Polet. These are some of the organizations that are actually doing quite a number of interventions. And you also mentioned about the campaigns. This is the farmers' rights campaign. This where we are integrating the youth, but we also understand that if we are talking about agroecology, it starts from somewhere. This somewhere is the seed. If you don't have seed, I don't think you can cultivate anything that we are talking about here. So now this is where we are actually advocating for the farmers' rights campaigns, and we have the seed and food fairs that are actually done at a community level, at the national level. This is where the Good Food Festival is coming into play. So we are here in Zimbabwe trying to also be part and parcel of the movement that we are talking about, because understanding that celebration of our food and celebration of our seeds and celebration of our different recipes that are actually associated, and anything that is coming with the traditional understanding of the traditional knowledges that is associated to the seed is actually, this is where we are here in Zimbabwe. So we have different activities that are going to be happening here in Zimbabwe, where we are also going to be engaged in terms of publicity, awareness program, that where the issues to do with technology is coming in, the different of videos, arts, music, and different type of celebration that is associated to that. But also outside that, we are also talking about landscape restoration. These are the programs that are done at the regional level, where we have programs that whereby tree planting, water harvesting. We're talking about using sports to lower the youth in agroecology. And we understand that the youth love sports so much. This is where we have organizations that are actually using sports to actually get the youth engaged into agroecology. I also talked about technologies. You can see from this slide, we have that far right corner where a young man is actually using to pilot with the is actually doing a piloting of the piloting of the of the drone. Yes. So these are the initiatives that are happening within the Sky Sky partners. So if you're talking about the Skywake, I mean at a regional level, these are some of the initiatives that we are actually promoting.
That's incredible. I mean, you know, why do you think this work is important? I know we just have very limited time, but in your own words and thought processes, why do you think this is important, given the challenges that youths are facing in these days? Over and above unemployment, we have heavy substance abuse that is rendering most youths really hopeless in the economy front. And we don't see a future at the moment unless and until our youths really get immersed into what matters.
Yeah, for me, I think from a personal perspective, if you don't have a purpose in life, then you live in a life that is aimless somehow. Because nowadays, because people, if don't have anywhere to go, no purpose, nothing to do, they would be engaged in a number of things that would be actually detrimental to their lives. So for us, our focus is to actually get the youth out of these zones where it's really inconducive for them to live, as well as for them not to actually be living in a way that they don't have aims and purpose in life. So we actually try to bring a perspective that would be them engaged in something that is going to be powerful, because at the same time, we're also looking at the depleted world that we are living. We have seen climate impacts. We have seen the floods. We have seen different number of the droughts that have actually happened the last season. So all these are actually happening, but we can do something. And then what something can we do that we can actually help our communities? This is where we have a large pool of people, of population that I mentioned in terms of the youth being the majority. But then if we don't empower them, then we have the majority that are actually doing nothing. So this is where the youth work is coming in to actually engage, to actually use this large pool of population to make them engaged and be part and parcel of the agroecology movement. That will help us bring solution to our communities. Because to be honest, the corporate world has failed. It might be imperative to actually understand also that we are also talking about being fed by the same system that is actually failing and over again. But at the same time, we also have to realize that agroecology has actually showed us the diversification, as well as not only diversification, but also the nutrition that comes with the component of the intervention that we are doing. So if we are to engage the youth, we know for sure that we have a large audience that is going to be central into reshaping our food system. So this is where our work is focusing in trying to bring about the participation of our youth in agroecology, so that we should be food secure, because food security on its own does not also translate that we have food on our table. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about access, utilization, but also we are talking about the issue to do with the freedom with our food, choose to do what we want and to choose to what we grow. This is where food sovereignty is coming in play. So that's why our focus is only to make sure that we have a full participation of our youth, to remove them from the intervention that are actually killing our people in terms of the way how the farming system has been constructed. But we cannot do that on our own. That's why we have this working together kind of concept that we are focusing on, having youth being brought into play.
Thank you, Jazzakah. I mean, just listening to you is bringing so much hope to many that have gone ahead of us, the older people in the community and the older people in the movement. It's amazing to see this whole new front of the youths, and these pictures have been so incredible to also give us that feel what this looks like. In a situation where there's lots of negativity around our youths, around agriculture to the youths, around farming to the youths, I think you guys are bringing back the fun, the realities, and also platforms for sharing so that we all become resilient. Because once we hear stories from Malawi, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Zambia, I think we become an unstoppable force, and we have a way of plugging into the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, which is AFSA, a bigger body of the network. I think the wave is moving across Africa, and honestly, from Africa to the world. We're going to be changing lives. I believe it. And thank you for being at the head of that struggle, for being the comrade as well as a young man, and to have all the women and girls and go-go's, which are old women and older men, supporting you and holding you high as well, you know, because I'm sure you draw lots of inspiration from everything that happens around you. And I'm personally very inspired, which is why I thought it would be amazing to have you on this call as well.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. Actually, I think, yeah, you of course summarized some of the things that I also wanted to say, because if you're looking at the work, is not only by just having the youth being part, but also me myself being a youth I also have to practice. So this is where now the farming part of myself is coming into play, because I understand if I can preach something that I'm unable to do, it becomes so difficult for actually to realize in terms of people to have confidence in me. So this is where I also have about a 14 point something acre of land that I'm also practicing agroecology. And it's a process that is, I'm learning, relearning, unlearning. It's a process that has to be with you. You also mentioned about the exposure from the already powerful movement that we also have. So we have people that have actually vested much in terms of the experiences, in terms of the agroecology work that they have been here for a long time. So we are the youth that are tapping into that knowledge for us to actually practice. This is where some of the intervention that we also have included into this include issues to do with mentorship, to do with having to go somewhere where you know for sure you're going to spend there for maybe your 2 years or 1 year, where you are going to learn about agroecology, not just having a conceptual understanding of what agroecology is all about. So yeah, I guess this is the movement which we have to work together. I understand you mentioned about the struggle. Yes, it's a process. If we can't have patience within the way, yeah, that's where the struggle is coming in.
So truly, patience is a virtue, and thank you so much, Jazz. Again, we look forward to just learning a lot more from you, and we'll be following your story. And whenever there's anything new, please don't hesitate to shout, because Regeneration International is a friend of Sky and a friend of AFSA. We've contributed to the barefoot guides on landscape regeneration and the healthy soil and healthy food book by AFSA as well. So we continue to be this co-creator of all the learning, and thank you for contributing so strongly today with great conviction. So thank you, Jazz, again. I hope you have a good time in Zimbabwe at the Seed and Food Festival. Thank you, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much, Precious, for having me. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.